Okay.
Like Yadi said earlier, you know how the N64 ran at 93 megahertz, and then we have a video card. Like in PC today, we have a video card, right? If you think about a CPU is it works a lot harder than a graphics processing unit. So, like you said, 256 bits, right?
Yes.
I believe that's for the graphics card, because to do graphics, you just have to change the color by a shade or so. To do like a logical math operation, that's a lot more work, and that's why our Windows are only 64 bits today, but not like 256 bits and stuff like that. Is that clear, everybody?
Yes,
I know it's kind of like complex. Yeah.
So those are both calculated separately and then added as one. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, they're completely separate.
So where does the big number come from that we can't use today? Because you're saying that we only use a 64, but I don't understand how other things use more and why we can't integrate that into the computers that we use.
No, they're talking about the CPU and like the difference between the graphics card and things.
Yeah, the CPU and the graphics processing unit are separate things, but they work together for entertainment and computers. But then, why we don't have like a 128 CPU? I believe that's because we don't need 128 bits. Because you know how like he said, if there's 8 bits, you can have like 256 colors. I did the math for a 64-bit, and it's like something past trillion, like 18, like there's a lot.
So it's simply because we have enough.
Yeah, like we're good now, and then yeah.
It is superfluous. It would be useless. It wouldn't be worth it to put the amount of effort to fit 64-bit bus transistors into a processor past 64 bits. So someone asked if there's a limit. Someone asked if there was a limit, and yeah, right now the limit is 64 bits. So when you said the first time that one of the consoles is 128, I was like, really? Because 128 is the system bus for the graphics card, and I guess for the memory as well, for the RAM also. But the processor, just the CPU, just the processor, the limit is 64-bit. Okay? And so, what do we do when we want to process more than 64 bits at a time? Well, guess what? All of this, the NES, SNES, PlayStation, and N64, those all have one processor with one core. With one core. Think of it as one mind, one brain. Okay? Past this point, we were like, it's too hard to make it 128. How about if we, instead of doubling the amount of transistors in the bus, we create another core. So we put in another brain in that mind. So then it was able to do, so if you were able to have in one processor 2 cores, and we would call it a dual core processor. So it was able to do all of this times 2, a dual core processor. So it was able to, how many bits at a time then, if you had a dual core processor? 128. Exactly. So that's why they didn't need to extend the bus width for the processor. Okay? All they need to do is just have another processor in the processor. Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, it's actually 130 now.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. All right, and then after that, if we want more, all we need to do now is just change this multiplier. Add more cores, right? Sarah, how many cores is your computer?
Only 2.
Only 2. All right, who here can tell me what would be next after 2 cores?
Quad core.
Quad core. So all of our processors here, they are all quad core processors. That means they have 4 cores. That means we multiply this times 4. Okay? So then we can have a lot of bits entering the processor at one time.
What is the highest one?
Right now the highest I think is 8 cores for one processor. You can have 16 cores, but all you have to do is just buy 2 8-core processors and put it in your motherboard with two sockets.
Got it.
Yeah.
Matthew has an 8-core.
Oh, cool.
Oh, Matthew has an 8-core processor? That's cool. Yeah.
So what's the point of that, having so many processors? Because more HP?
More speed.
You can have more HD because you can do more. You can do more. You can process more.
Is it that's why some computers you can play Blu-ray discs and some you can't because it says that they don't have a Blu-ray disc?
Well, that might mean that it just doesn't have a Blu-ray player. But I'm assuming
Sorry. I was assuming because of the
and I'm assuming that Blu-ray is so high def that you probably need a 64-bit processor
Really?
to even play it. Definitely you need, do you have any
I think a
insight?
good metaphor is just like, you know how he already said if there's like one chord, there's one line?
Uh-huh.
Like, imagine in a, like, Safeway or something, there's four aisles you can go to the register for. That's like the equivalent of having a quad core. You can deal with 4 customers at once, or 4, bits.
So, that's why it seems like he's doing 2 things at once.
Yeah, that's why
Really,
it's fast.
he's doing one thing for each processor
Yeah.
at the same time.
That's why in the early 90s, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a big thing about, you can multitask now on your computer. Windows 2000, you can multitask now. Well, that's because you were able to do more because the bits were, it was a 32-bit processor, you can do more. They were able to figure it out so that you can do more with those bits. You can have like a lot, same with your phones. Remember when the iPhone, the first one came out?
Yeah.
You could only do one thing at a time? Because it didn't have enough processing power to do, and the software to make it happen. I have a quick little analogy. Thank you so much. I appreciate one of the round of applause. So I have a quick little analogy, and then we're going to go into our quiz. So for yeah, you have a quiz. Quick one, just 10 questions.
Okay.
All right. So what we've been talking about is hardware and software, right? I mentioned that. So for computers, same thing. So let's imagine this is a 64-bit hardware, okay? You can run a 64-bit operating system on top of it, okay? Or you can run a 32-bit operating system on top of it, okay? Yeah, you can install a 32-bit version of Windows on a 64-bit computer.
Oh.
And it'll run it, all right? It's not the best, but it'll do it. However, let's say, for example, you have a 32-bit processor like a Pentium or an Intel Core Duo, the very first dual-core processor. It was not 64-bit, it was 32-bit. So this is a 32-bit processor, and this is a 64-bit operating system. It can't. It won't. It doesn't work. It's not compatible like that. But you could definitely run on a 64-bit hardware, 64-bit operating system, and you can even run 32-bit software on top of that, or even like 8-bit software, like how you do your emulation. It's just pretending that it has the right amount of hardware so that it can play the 8-bit games. Are you guys seeing that? So even on a 32-bit operating system, you can run the old school 8-bit or 16-bit games. You guys seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, any questions about that? Okay, cool. So let's go to Schoology now. There's a quiz there. Based on everything that we've done, I made it pretty easy for you. Only based on stuff that I know you studied and you know we did here in lab. Okay?